Creativity weaves through everything we do at the Life Changes Trust. When you look beyond all the fun, enjoyment and adventure we associate with creativity, we know that there are powerful stories to be told. Stories of self-expression and confidence, of inclusion and human rights, of relationships and well-being, of voice and vision. It's time to tell those stories.
Because you can't help but not be emotionally affected by every single one of these poems and reflections. Every single one tells a story.
I think it's escapism. I think that's certainly a big part of it, a big part of why we're interested in stories and interested in drama and music and any other kind of creative expression.
It's just another way of expression, it's another way of feel. It's just like, if you can't speak those words, I believe every young person should have another sort of form of being like, I can't speak those words, but I'm gonna do it in another way.
It can help you a lot, and it can allow you to kind of grow and develop as a person, because it allows you to kind of understand your feelings and your thoughts, and you can decide how to deal with them and cope with them from that.
Whenever we're in a state of free flow, and I think that when your brain, in that, whatever it is that your exercises that you do, whatever you do that makes you switch off, I think that's what it is that we should be doing more of. Those moments when our brain just calms down and we don't hear the bustle and the noise of the outside world. So the more experiences we can offer ourselves and the more we can encourage those methods of expression and creativity, the calmer we are able to become, or the more we're able to see. It's not about quelling that or softening it or quietening it. It's about just sitting in peace with that. And sometimes when you do that, the best work comes, I think. And I wonder that it's about giving space for those moments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this very special launch event for Here I Stand. My name is Genevieve Fay. I work at in the communities team at Edinburgh International Book Festival, and I am so thrilled to be hosting today's launch and get to talk more about Here I Stand. This is a really wonderful collection of writing by care experienced young people, which has been published and coordinated by the Life Changes Trust. At Edinburgh International Book Festival, we are strong believers in the connection between writing, creativity and well-being, and the positive impact it can have on all of our lives. So it's absolutely amazing to see this in action via Here I Stand. Today's event is going to be jam-packed. We're going to hear from lots of different people who've been involved in the project on various steps of the way. And we'll also be talking to different guests about the ideas behind the project and the impact it's having. And most excitingly, we'll also hear from some of the young writers who will be sharing their poems with us. The book is available to browse online, and we'll be posting the link in the chat. So when you get a moment, once the event's finished, do have a look at the book, explore some of the poems and the reflective writing for yourself. These are really amazing, beautiful, moving stories, and some of them are quite hard-hitting. But when I was reading it, I just thought the overwhelming kind of sense is it's a collection of stories about hope and courage as well. We are recording this event, so it will be able to watch back. So we would encourage you to share it afterwards with anyone else who might be interested, who has missed watching it live today. If you have any questions about the project, please do put them in the Q&A box and we'll hopefully get the chance to discuss them shortly. To kick us off, we thought we'd start the launch with one of our poets, Aidan Axtell, whose poem Vision inspired the title of the book, Here I Stand. Aidan recently spoke to Mary Reid from the Life Changes Trust about his relationship with writing and the importance of creativity in his life. I'll let them tell you more.
Hi Aidan, thanks for joining me today. So as you know, we've got a publication coming out called Here I Stand. The title of that was inspired by one of the lines in one of your poems, and you're going to have your work submitted in that publication. So it's great to have a wee chat with you just now about that. So the first thing I was actually going to ask you, Aidan, was what is it that you actually like about creative writing and poetry?
Well, for me personally, I like poetry and creative writing because it's a personal outlet. So it's quite good if you want to kind of deal with your emotions, or if you've got any sort of thoughts or things like that. It's great just to kind of create a story or a wee poem, and it kind of just puts that sort of negative thoughts, if you have any, out there. And it's kind of in a wee bubble and it'll always stay there, so it's out of your head. So it's quite beneficial, I think, for that. In particular, I think creative writing and poetry is very beneficial for mental health. And I do strongly believe that. I think it's just a really good way of getting your emotions out there. And like, you don't have to share your poetry with anyone if you're like not comfortable with it or any of your writing.
Would you encourage other young people with care experience to get involved in creative writing? And why do you think, if you would, why do you think that would be a good thing?
I definitely think that they should get involved with it because, as I said, it can help you a lot and it can allow you to kind of grow and develop as a person, because it allows you to kind of understand your feelings and your thoughts, and you can decide how to deal with them and cope with them from that. And I think in order to get involved with it, as I said, they can always look at things online and it can give you a kind of gist how to do it. And it honestly is quite easy. Like for me, I personally started out by writing a diary. And I kind of went from writing a diary, and then I got an assignment at school to write a creative piece, and I just went through some of my things and then ended up writing a personal piece on that. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I thought, I'll try poetry, and it's quite similar. You kind of just pick it up quite easily.
That's brilliant, actually. That's a really good way to start and just kind of get you going with it and maybe build up your confidence if you start doing it that way. That's awesome. And as we had said at the start, you're going to have your work published in the book Here I Stand, and one of your poems has inspired the title for that publication. And how does that feel for you?
Well, honestly, I'm quite proud, and I was honestly really shocked when I got the email through telling me that. I was really surprised because I don't usually write my work thinking that I'm going to get something for it, if you know what I mean. Like, I usually just post it online, but I was honestly really, really surprised and proud to be able to kind of do this and represent.
And is it something that you're wanting to keep going with, Aidan? Is this something that you're kind of pursuing in life?
Well, personally, I do want to go into the career like social work, but I have always really liked writing. Ever since I was really young, like in primary school, I can remember like we'd get assignments to write a creative piece. And I can remember once I did write one and I got taken to the head teacher's office, and they thought it was really good, and I got a star and everything and a wee certificate, and that kind of boosted my confidence with it. So I kind of just continued developing my writing to the point that I have now, and all through primary and secondary school.
That's great. Good stuff, and great to hear that you're looking at social work as something you want to do. That's fantastic. If you were okay with it, we were going to ask you to read the poem that you've called Vision, and that's the poem that has inspired the title of this publication, which has content from all sorts of people with care experience, young people and some older people as well. So are you okay to read that out for us, Aidan?
Yeah, it's fine.
That'd be great. I'll just hand over to you then and let you read your own words.
Vision by Aidan Axtell. Here I stand, gazing upon the moon glowing in the night sky, with a backwash of matte obsidian. Darkness fills the emptiness of the void. Meanwhile, the stars pop like 1,000 staring wide eyes, focusing through chaos of universe, seamlessly seeing to infinity and beyond. If only we could comprehend true vision. If only we could see what is right in front of us.
Wow, that was fantastic. Aidan's poem is such a strong start to the book, and I think that the title, Here I Stand, is just a really important message from young people who are care experienced. It's emphatically saying, look, here we are. We have a voice, we have something to say, we deserve to be listened to. And that kind of sentiment is just echoed throughout the whole book. So I'm just so thrilled that Aidan could prepare that reading for us, and just really great to hear about his experiences with writing. And just keep going, Aidan, if you're watching. You know, it's all about just getting pen to paper. And as Aidan said, you know, it can be a really liberating and great experience, and obviously great for your mental health as well. Fantastic. So I'm now joined by Carol Patrick and Murren Dempster. Hi, so Carol is the Director of Evidence and Influencing on the Young People with Care Experience programme at the Life Changes Trust. Got that right. And Murren is one of the project coordinators who actually wrote the foreword of the book, which is a really, really brilliant piece of text. I'm really excited to talk to Murren about that. Just to let you know, for anyone watching, if you'd like to ask any questions about Here I Stand at this point, do pop them in the Q&A box, and Carol and Murren will be able to answer them. So we'll get to that in just a sec. But I thought I'd ask a few questions first. Thank you so much for joining me. Carol, first, I'll just start with you to can you tell us a bit more about the Life Changes Trust and the project and how it all emerged?
Yes, thanks, Genevieve. And I'm so glad that you got the job of saying my job title, because it is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So thank you for sparing me that. So the Life Changes Trust, we're an independent trust. We were established in 2013 with a £50 million endowment from National Lottery Community Fund. And we were given a 10-year time frame and a mission, really, to pursue a transformational agenda for 3 groups of people. So young people with care experience, we were obviously talking about today, people living with dementia, and unpaid carers. And the lottery, made quite a deliberate decision to invest in an independent trust. They wanted us to have a bit more freedom to kind of work in a different way, maybe from traditional funders. And I guess what's been really core to that is the way that we have really try to get alongside the people that we work with. So we really try to put young people with care experience at the heart of everything that we do. We do that in lots of different ways. But this project, Here I Stand, I think is just a really great platform for that. What we've really tried to do is showcase, provide a platform for the voice of young people using creative expression. And I think it tells you a lot about the trust, actually, just kind of having a look at that book.
Absolutely, yeah. And how did the project come about? How did it start?
Yeah, so I need to take you back to 2019, which seems like a lifetime ago now, actually, because so much has happened since that time, and I'm sure Murren feels the same way. It feels like a long time ago now that we started this. But basically what was happening at the Trust, we were becoming very inspired by our funded projects, and Murren was involved in a project in Perth at the time that we were funding. But really all of our funded projects, they were developing different creative angles, and they were really seeing the power of creativity to draw young people in and to encourage them to participate and engage in a different kind of way. So we were being quite inspired by that, and we were quite keen to think about maybe a creative project of our own. And we did have a couple of interns working with us at the time, and one of those, David, was doing a lot of his own writing. So we started having a lot of conversations about what could a creative project look like. And we engaged with Murren, and again, the project in Perth was doing quite a lot around creative work at the time.
So it was a good synergy, and really Here I Stand developed from there.
Amazing. Murren, I would love to ask you, what was it like for you to work on this project? Because I know that you've sort of had writing experience of your own. So yeah, tell us a bit about like what it was like to kind of put it all together and to kind of curate it as well.
Oh God, it was just such an experience. I mean, personally, emotionally, all the alleys. Yeah, it was so cool. And just to be asked like, oh, do you want to do the foreword? I was like, me? Like, me, Murren? I was like, of course I will. And then also just having like the experience of reading all the stories first before they were actually published was such like a, oh my God, like this is really special. Like this is really important. So yeah, it was just, I'm still quite mind blown about it. And every time I look at the book, I'm like, I'm in there. And loads of people I know are as well. We're all famous.
It's like, I did that. This is me.
That was me.
It's amazing. It's great. And it's really nice to see your enthusiasm about it. How was it to sort of, reading the poems? I guess it's probably, like, as you said, like a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Could you expand a little bit on that, what it was like?
I mean, for me, reading it as like a care experienced young person already, I was like reading all the stories. I was like, I ken what they're talking about, or I ken that person, or I ken, like, not like physically, but like in my mind, I know who you are. And like also like just seeing yourself and being like, I would ken that. Like I would ken that person, and like I just like relate to it so much. And
that kind of feeling of not being alone, I guess, is really important.
Not being alone, yeah, and being like, just the same experiences, basically.
Yeah, that's great, and it's really, really amazing that the foreword you've written is brilliant, and we're going to come on to that a little bit more next. But I wanted to ask Carol, did the project, how did it work? Because with the Book Fest, we do lots of workshops with creative writing. Did you kind of go out to people and run workshops, or was it very much like an open call for people just to write in and send in what their responses were?
Yeah, very much so. A kind of an open call, Genevieve. We were at that point, we were funding projects all across the country, and as I said, we were aware that people were doing quite a lot of creative work. So we really wanted to sort of throw the doors open. And one of the important things that we talked about earlier on was to not make it a competition, to really say, everyone who submitted work would have something in Here I Stand. If they submitted more than one piece, we might not be able to have them all, but we really wanted to include everybody. That felt really important as part of the project, and something that we talked to our coordinators about quite a bit. So yeah, we just asked people for their submissions, and I think some groups, like the one that Murren was involved in, were kind of doing some specific activity around it, whereas others just saw the call and thought, yeah, this is something I'd like to get involved in.
That's brilliant. I think that approach is really great, because it means that it's sort of a bit of a lucky dip what you're going to get back from people when you have such an open kind of invitation. And actually, there's a lot of variation in the book, isn't there? There's lots of different there's poems, there's reflections, there's things that are specifically about being care experienced, and then there's just short stories about a completely different thing. So I think it makes for a really rich collection, which is great. So Murren, I wanted to ask you, in the foreword, you do talk about kind of your experience of creative writing and how it's helped you with your well-being and kind of process your experiences. Have you got any advice for listeners who maybe haven't tried creative writing before? It can be a bit daunting. Where might they start?
I mean, like hearing from Aidan at the start, like keeping a diary at first, that's always like a good like starting point, because you're just like, and I used to keep a diary as well, and I would write it like I was writing to a person, because it felt more like there's somebody on the other side, but nobody's actually going to read that. You know what I mean? So you can make it more personable in that way. And I mean, like nowadays you've got so many different, you know, technology wise, like it doesn't have to be pen on paper, you know, open up your notes on your phone. That's what I do now, you know, for everything. I'm like, oh, that's a song lyric, or oh, that's a, you know, that's like, you know, a good like quote or something, you know, and keep it that way. Or even like just record yourself, listen back. Oh my God, what was I talking about? But also like, oh, good, right, I can write that down now. So there's like 100 different ways. And I think just do it, just start. Like, because like who's going to read it except you? And unless you want to share that, because it's so to yourself, and it's kind of that like, oh, nobody else is going to read it, so I can put whatever I want. So I would say just go for it. Whatever method you want, just do it.
We talked about that a bit, didn't we, when we met before, about just that having that choice. You don't have to share it, you know, and that feels quite a safe way to start. You can just write for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love that idea of putting notes in your phone. I'm glad someone else does that too, because I have the most random notes. It's like tomatoes, toothpaste, like lists for stuff, and then it'll be like a random sort of poetic thought that I've had. It's quite funny.
Yeah, mine's is exactly the same.
Okay, good. I'm glad other people have that very strange mixed bag of notes in their phone. I wondered, actually, I might just pop to you and sort of look at the questions. I had a couple of questions coming in. Colleen's asking, what can we do to encourage this creative work and ensure young people feel empowered to express themselves? Carol, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some quite practical things that we've learned through our work. So it's really important to give young people resources. So sometimes young people with care experience, they might not have access to the same resources and support as other young people. And sometimes, you know, we've done a lot of work around small individual grants and small individual budgets. They can make a huge difference to young people. So just being able to buy your own stuff, maybe it's a set of nice notebooks and some pens, maybe it's some technical support like Murren was talking about there that might help you to kind of capture some of your thoughts. If you've got other, you know, photography, if there's other interests, equipment and supplies, that's important, and access to that, I think, definitely. And I think also, you know, what we've been trying to do is encourage the folk around young people to embrace creative approaches. We had a great session yesterday with Rod Kippen on this subject, and just acknowledging that creativity can be scary for all of us, and a big part of it is because we don't want to embarrass ourselves or make mistakes, but actually you can't, you know, there's no wrong way to be creative. It's just, as Murren says, get started, just do something, don't be frightened of it. And I think if folk around young people can kind of embrace that way of thinking, that can really encourage and draw young people in, just give them a bit of confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think also sometimes people don't think of themselves as creative, whatever that means. And it's actually really important for us to just break down those definitions of what creativity is and just say, let's give it a go, you know, pen to paper. I wanted to ask as well, I've seen a really great question from Laura. Would love to hear more from Murren about what it felt like to receive an actual hard copy of the book.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I think I messaged Mary right away going, thank you so much. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, it just made it all feel like more real, because obviously I've already read the stories, obviously, to put it together and write the foreword and all that. But then, and then on Twitter and everybody going, oh, look, I got the book. And I was like, right, okay, right, it's coming our way soon. Because our champions were like, our group of care experience young people got a copy. And then Mary messaged me being like, did you get one? And I was like, no, but like, we've got one. Oh no, we'll send you one right away. I was like, oh, great stuff. So I've even kept like the letter that I got with it as well, just to make it a bit more special as well. And then, oh, I just love showing people now, everybody that comes round, I go, I'm in the book, by the way. look, I'm in the book. So absolutely just made the experience like all that more real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is something that you can't beat about. I mean, I would definitely say this working for a book festival, but you can't beat about a real book, can you? It's just like it makes it feel so tangible, and it's like, it just kind of brings the project together in such a great way. So I wondered, for me, the book carries quite a strong message of hope, and I wanted to ask both of you, what are your hopes for the book now that it's out in the world? I think we'll go for Murren first, if that's all right.
Oh, no pressure. Okay. I think I touched on it a lot in the foreword, and I basically just said I hope this reaches the right people. I mean, no matter what age you are or who you are as a service, just read it wholeheartedly. And I would say, don't read it like you're in your job title, if that makes sense. Just read it like, oh, somebody's express themselves on paper. Then later on, when you finish the book, go, right, as a service, what can I do then? You know what I mean? Take it to heart first, and then think, oh my God, have I got young people like that? Have I got young people in, particular situations, or dealing with mental health issues, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And I hope just the promise as well, that whole thing, I think the two just connect so well together. So yeah, my hope is just people read it wholeheartedly, and there's more of that, let's do something, let's make change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that these kind of reading things like this will open people's eyes, that definitely opened my eyes to some of the experiences these people, like the writers, have been through. Carol, what are your hopes for the book?
Yeah, I mean, quite similar to Murren, really. I think, the reality is that we know that there are quite a lot of negative attitudes out there about both the care system and the children and young people that are in it. And there's a lot of stories told about the care system and children and young people that are in care or have that experience, and a lot of them are inaccurate and sometimes quite hurtful. And actually, it's really, really important that people with lived experience have got the opportunity to tell their story, their way, in a way that's meaningful for them, and really kind of trying to challenge some of that narrative. So for me, it's really important that we get a wide readership of Here I Stand, and that's the power of it actually as well. You don't need to know anything about the context to dip into this book at all, and it will be informative for you and insightful. And I think that's a real strength. And as Murren says, we've got the promise in Scotland now, and there is a vision for how the care of children and young people and families should work. And now it's up to all of us actually to start working towards that and making that a reality. And I think a big part of that is about, tackling some of these attitudes and people becoming a bit more enlightened. And there's a real place for creative outputs, I think, in that space.
Absolutely. And they can kind of be a soft way of telling people about things. It's not like you have to read a report. This is a short poem that can just open your mind in such a great and profound way. I often find with poetry collections or, short writing collections like this, different pieces will chime differently with different people. And I wondered, could I maybe ask you, Murren, is there a particular poem that sort of sticks out to you in Here I Stand, and why?
Yeah, one of my favourites was Teddy, the short poem story, whatever you want to call it, because just really personal, really, and just because when I was growing up, a teddy bear was my favourite, go-to thing. That was my oh my God, couldn't think of anything better. You know what I mean? I had hundreds, and I was just oh, that story is just I know this person, I see myself in that story a lot. So yeah, that was just really hard hitting for me.
Brilliant. Carol, have you got any ones that particularly stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I want to say is what I really love about Here I Stand is how it works as a collection. So, I think all the pieces individually are strong, but it's that kind of thing where somehow by bringing them together and putting them in a collection in a kind of certain order, it strengthens them all even further. So Yeah, I guess that's a little bit of a politician's answer at the beginning, because it's hard to choose. They are all so good. But I am going to talk a little bit about the second piece in the book, which is called Bird Watching. And I think for me, it's just the imagery in that poem around birds and around flight that's just really striking and kind of strikes a chord, I think. And it's also just one of those pieces that, well, I found stays with me, you know, so I still kind of think about it and come back to it at different points.
Whilst I did not experience unconditional love firsthand, I believe I have been a witness, a bystander, afraid to breathe for fear the finch might fly away and prove my theory wrong. And yet this finch still feeds its young, returns to nest when night glides in. The birds tell me this love exists, that I was an anomaly, unworthy of this love myself, but allowed to watch through branches. My obsession with acts of love migrated like the birds in spring. Now I'm not watching others' hearts, but gently tapping on my own. First little bristled feathers grow. I'll wait until they let me soar.
Wow, absolutely beautiful and moving words from Roxana. I love that poem. It's so amazing to hear these young people speaking their truth in their own words and harnessing their own creativity to tell their stories. It's not always easy performing or reading work, especially when it's so deeply personal. And we're really grateful to Roxana and all the contributors who have put together readings for today's event. So now I'm really pleased to welcome Craig Campbell from the Western Bartonshire Champions Board and Anisha Tagore, who works with Craig.
Hi, Genevieve.
Lovely to see you both. Thanks so much for joining us. So I just wanted to hear about your kind of involvement with the project. Craig, could you tell us a bit more about your work with Western Bartonshire Champions Board and how you got involved with the Here I Stand project?
Sure, Genevieve, thank you. And hi, everyone. Yeah, so a Champions Board, for those that don't know, I'm quite sure everyone probably does. In Western Bartonshire, we are a platform for care experienced young people to get to know and to build some positive relationships with some of their very many corporate parents. Our Champions Board has been on the go since 2017. And we've supported care experienced young people throughout the last 3 to 4 years now with lots and lots of different projects and events. One of our most recent projects is we received some funding from the Children and Young People's Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund, where we had an idea of creating some positive wellbeing boxes. These were going to be fairly large size boxes with different things inside them for young people really to pick up when their mood was a bit low. And have things inside them that would help lighten their mood. Just before launching the boxes and handing them out to people, Life Changes Trust got in touch with the Here I Stand book. Initially, I was blown away by it. I've been writing poetry myself for probably the last 40 years, since starting secondary school. And when I read this book, it kind of took me back to my days of working in the residential houses where I could absolutely understand what these young people were saying. And the words were so beautifully written. So I did a cheeky little email to Life Changes Trust and said, what's the chances of me getting 50 copies to put inside our 50 wellbeing boxes? And Life Changes Trust, being as amazing as they are, I think it was next day delivery, 50 books came in the post. So these books went in to the wellbeing boxes. They were the last thing to go in the wellbeing boxes. And then we were able to give these out to young people, most of whom had requested them. We'd set up an online place where they could go and request a box, and they commented why it would be useful for them. You might be wondering what's actually inside the boxes. There's a variety of things. And Anisha has been very clever again with her TikTok expertise. And obviously those that know TikTok, they're very short videos, limited to a minute or so. But we've got a TikTok video just now, which I would love people to see. So if we can just have a look at that now, please.
Like me, the boats are strong. There is a rock in the middle of the harbour, marking shallow water, that the boats must turn really hard to avoid. Care is like shallow water. You're lucky to get through it. Sometimes you want to give up and drift. Where will it take you? Stranded on a beach, smashed on the rocks, or out to open water? My lighthouses look out for me. I am strong like the boat.
That is a brilliant TikTok, and this is why we work with young people, so they can tell us how to work all these things. Anisha, I would love to hear from you about a bit more about your involvement with the project and whether you got any kind of responses back from the packs that you sent out as well.
Yeah, we actually created another forum so young people could give us feedback anonymously on the boxes, and every single comment was great. We even kind of said if there's anything you could have had extra or anything, then they all loved them, including the Here I Stand books. That was probably most young people's favourite bit about the box, and being able to relate to such a book and stuff that was said from real young people with real experience.
Absolutely. I love that poem as well that you're reading over the top of that. I think that's resilient, I believe, from the collection. Amazing. And what was it kind of like a lockdown? Was it related to lockdown, sending out the boxes, or was it kind of just something you planned to do anyway?
Yeah, so it's something I'd kind of always thought of. I really like the idea of boxes on birthdays and stuff. So during the lockdown, I'd sent my own ones out to friends, and I thought what a good idea for our care experience young people. And so the items were quite easy to think of and stuff. And it took a good while to put together. I had all 50 boxes in my house at one point, but yeah, they're in there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know how long those things take. You don't think it's going to take that long to put little tiny elements into one box.
Yeah. Like a shop. I feel like I was doing something illegal, honestly. But
it's an amazing gift to the young people, and I'm really pleased that you were able to include a copy of the book in there as well, because it kind of, I guess, it just makes it extra special to see that. Brilliant. And Craig, what do you think the impact will be for the kind of care experienced young people who read Here I Stand, and just to, as Anisha said, see their experiences reflected in a real book? What will that be like for them?
I think it'll have a huge impact in a positive way, Genevieve. Some of the stories in there relate to me as a worker, going back to 2002 when I started working in the residential houses. So if I can relate to it as a worker, there is absolutely no doubt that care experienced young people will relate to everything that's written in that book. There's also a part of me believes that it will benefit young people who are not yet care experienced but may come into care. A very, very scary time being in residential houses when young people have appeared acting the kind of tough guy with his skipped cap back to front and swearing left, right and centre, and then 2 hours later crying on the end of their bed. Very scary time, and there's nothing in that book that I would say would make that an even scarier prospect. I think, if anything, it just gives them that little bit of hope that at the moment at home's not the place for me to live. Things will get better, and within our boxes we've tried to make that the message as well, that things will get better. So we're delighted and honoured to be part of the launch of the book, and we'll do everything we can to make sure everybody reads it. It's not just for young people. If anything, I would say it's more or equally as much for staff to read. Social workers, senior social workers, team leaders, chief executives. People need to read this. People need to hear the voices of our young people. And as Murren said earlier, in relation to the promise, this is a big year where corporate parents need to stand up and action the words that they say. So yeah, really excited about it.
Absolutely. Anyone who likes reading, and even if you don't like reading that much, you will enjoy this book, because it's got so many different stories in it. And yeah, as you said, it's kind of super meaningful for many different people. Just to mention it, I had a lovely comment in the chat, but the boxes must have made such a difference to young people dealing with lockdown and everything that has come with it. Great initiative, Anisha. So yeah, I love it. I kind of want a box as well, but I guess I've missed the boat a little bit on that. Thank you both so much for joining us today and for talking us through how the book is making its journey in the world. It's really great to hear it's making a difference in West Dunbartonshire.
Thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you.
I think it's clear from the conversations we've had today that Here I Stand has made a massive impact already on people from many different walks of life. And that's one of the things I love about books and reading. Now we're going to hear from Alan Jack from Falkirk Council. And he has worked alongside young people with care experience probably for more years than you care to admit. Alan shared with Mary Reid how creativity has been a consistent theme throughout his work and what Here I Stand meant to him.
The first question I'd had was just for you to tell me a wee bit about yourself and the work that you do with young people with care experience.
Okay, so my name is Alan Jack, and I originally started working in Edinburgh in the 80s, believe it or not, in children's residential. So although originally I was an education welfare officer.
Okay.
Does everybody know what that is? We're in West Lothian, where I worked. We were called the Dogger Man, but apparently in different areas, you're called different things. I was an education welfare officer, and then because I really enjoyed working with young people, it was great. And then from that, I discovered that there was a lot of young people in the care system, which, to my embarrassment, I didn't really know much about at the time. But then I got interested in that, and I got a job working in an emergency reception unit in Edinburgh, which was a 17-bedded unit. You can't imagine that now, because big was great then. Big is not good now.
Yeah.
And I loved that job. And we worked with many, many young people who had a really bad start in life, but were just trying to get themselves back on an even keel, if you like, with our help. So I moved, so I worked there for about 20 odd years, working my way up the system. And during that time, I managed to work in secure unit for a wee while. So while I was in, it just relates to the Here I Stand. While I was working in the secure unit for a brief period of time, I have to say, we used to take the young people from the main accommodation down a corridor to what they called the education hub.
Okay.
So it was a long corridor. There was nothing in it. It was just a corridor. But at the very end of the corridor, while you waited to go through the door, because you had to wait till somebody opened the door, it was one of these situations. Ridiculous. But anyway, that was the system that we had. So we'd have to stand and wait till somebody let us through the door. And there was one notice board I noticed, and there was like a couple of notices on it, but nothing else. So I thought, I think I'm going to take a corner of that and I'm going to make it Poet Corner. So I did that. And I did think to myself, well, I'm going to have to put something up there that young people will like, they'll have time to read, because you're only standing there not very long. So Ogden Nash was an obvious choice. I mean, I don't know if you know Ogden Nash.
Yeah.
Very short poems, 3 or 4 lines, funny, but to the point.
Mm-hmm.
So I put Ogden Nash up. And every week I used to change the poem. And this went on for a few months. And not one person, not one member of staff, not one young person ever said to me about that poem. I changed it every week and I kept up it. And then one week I forgot to change it. And one of the lads said, "Hey, Al, what's happened with the poems?" I said, "The poems?" He went, "You've not changed it this week." I said, "You've been reading them every week." He said, "I love it. I've even got a book of the Nash down." So unknown to me, and sometimes when you do things like that, young people tend not to come forward and say, "Oh, I quite like that," or whatever. but you can very quietly have an impact.
That's such a powerful anecdote, I think, Alan. And I mean, is that something that you think creativity and those kind of creative approaches working with young people, do you think that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you should try all different manner of things. Another thing I used to do is in the residential unit, I used to get a box and I would buy things like just stuff out of the pound shop, and it would be, they clicky things with the ball in it, skipping ropes, dominoes, just tin flutes, that sort of thing. And I would have that box, and I would bring that box out, and I would never invite them to come in, but I'd be rummaging about the box, saying, "What have you got in that box?" And I'd say, "Oh, just bits and pieces." I'll go, "Let's have a wee look at it," and we would engage them with that box, and then eventually it got to the stage whereby I'd say, "What have you got in the box this week?" Because I'd have to buy different things every week, and the whole purpose of it was not necessarily to play games, but to engage with the young people, chit chat and talking.
Just chatting about Here I Stand, obviously you've got the publication there in front of you. So you had heard about it through Falkirk Champs. I think maybe we had contacted them. Is that?
Yeah, I think you had sent an email and they had distributed it, and I was immediately. I think I immediately sent you an email saying, "Please send me a book."
Yep.
And here it is. And ever since I've had that book, I've had it on my desk and I read it. Although I did think after I started reading it, I thought you had something missing.
Right.
And what you should have sent with the book was a big box of tissues. Because it is quite an emotional read.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And let's not underestimate that in terms of, young people are telling us about their innermost thoughts and their feelings and stuff like that. It can be quite painful to read, to be honest, because it does remind me of many of the young people I work with, many of them. Yeah.
And when you sort of look at it as a collection as a whole, what do you think of the publication? You mentioned that you have it sitting on your desk all the time.
I think that every single one tells a different story, and I think that every single reflection and every single poem is about that individual, but it's about many individuals as well, because I recognise many of the young people in the poems and reflections that are in there. And for anybody working with young people, this is the greatest insight into how they feel and some of the issues that are important to them, and some of the things that we might not necessarily pick up on.
And you mentioned you don't have any favourites, obviously, and I don't have any either. There's obviously some that stand out on different days for different reasons, almost.
Absolutely.
One of the poems that we're going to have a reading of at the event is the last poem called Finding Home.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if that sort of struck any chord with you, and we could have any sort of points you wanted to make about that one. We would have that leading into that reading.
I think that Finding Home is about the fact that all human beings have the need to belong somewhere, and to feel loved, to feel valued, and to be part of a group, and to be part of something. We all have that great desire, and I think that is a great reflection on that innate need that we all have as human beings. And it might be the last one in the book, but it's not the last. It's certainly one of the most profound ones as well.
Yeah.
And so I really, really enjoyed that, because that is also about hope. That is also about change, and that change will come, and that change is something not be afraid of, and that change can be good. but it's been part of something, and we all want to be part of that, and that's all that all our young people want.
I couldn't agree more with Alan there. It's such a special book, and the messages contained within it are so important for everyone who works with young people or who just is interested in engaging with others. So already we're running out of time, which is absolutely flown by. I wanted to flag that this is part of 3 days of events organised by the Life Changes Trust. And for any young people watching, if you'd like to try out some creative writing for yourself, there is a free workshop tonight at 6, led by Layla Josephine. Layla is a writer I've worked with for quite a long time now, and she is an amazing poet, performer, theatre maker. She was previously one of the book festival's writers in residence, and the sessions she runs are always great fun. So do join in with that, and I think the link for that has just popped in the chat. Also do have a look at the Voice and Vision Gallery, which launched yesterday. Lots of creative outputs from different young people with care experience, and the link for that is also in the chat. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined me today to share their experiences, and thank you to the Life Changes Trust for putting all the work that they've put into Here I Stand. And perhaps most importantly, thank you so much to the young people who took part in the project, for sharing their voices, sharing their experience with the world through poetry and creative writing. You can find the book online, and please do read it and share it widely. And just take a moment to appreciate these amazing poems. But we're going to finish the launch today with another reading that Alan mentioned a few moments ago. It's by a talented writer named Shannon, and the work is called Finding Home. Thank you again for joining us today, and thank you to Shannon.
There are places in life where you just fit. A place, a person, or a group you just slip into. A safe place. The place the mask falls off. You feel nervous to trust and to accept that change that has come. But we all want to belong. We take a leap in good faith that the comfort of others will catch us. And when we are caught, we are gently cradled and rocked. We metamorphosize. The people and the places we belong become home. A me becomes a we, and we start to believe. And that belief becomes a seed to be the change we need.